The Riyria Empire has endured for over 3,000 years. At its peak, its great regions were stitched together by a network of stone roads that were maintained with care and attention. And from these roads flowed trade and wealth that ushered in a period of advancements in the form of heated baths and clean water. But stagnation chipped away at the great empire in the last 1,000 years, and eventually, it all collapsed when the Emperor Nerian, his wife and daughter, were assassinated. But not all was lost, for Nevrik, the Emperor's son, survived and went into hiding. This is the backdrop of Michael J. Sullivan's Riyria Revelations trilogy. The books in the trilogy are Theft of Swords, Rise of Empire, and Heir of Novron.
Before I get into the review, let me explain how I actually do reviews. Personally, I'm not a fan of a single rating for an entire series or book. Many books and series have strengths and weaknesses that a single score doesn't properly reflect. So for my reviews, I use a 5-star rating system, with the 5 being the highest, over 6 categories. And they are plot, world building, characters, magic system, writing, and enjoyment. But before I begin, these videos do take a lot of time to put together. So if you like the video, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel and leave a like.
Category 1. The plot. Theft of Swords picks up roughly 1,000 years after the fall of the Riyria Empire. Right off the bat, we are introduced to two of the main POV characters, Hadrian Blackwater and Royce Melbourne. And who exactly are these two characters? Well, think of them as sugar and spice. Hadrian is an idealist. He is a man of dreams and high morality. Royce, on the other hand, is a cynic, a pessimist, and is deeply distrusting. The pair form what is known as Riyria. And what exactly is Riyria known for, you ask? Thievery. Yes, Hadrian and Royce are thieves. Theft of Swords is actually broken up into 2 books. The first book is all about a job involving the theft of a sword in the kingdom of Melangar, and how it goes so wrong. How wrong, you wonder? Well, the theft leads to a kidnapping and a prison break. Book 2 within Theft of Swords takes place not too long after the events of Book 1, and Hadrian and Royce take a job to help a young village girl named Thrace save her father. So, the two head to the village Dahlgren and discover that the village is being attacked by Galarin. Did I butcher that name? Most goddamn definitely. So, I'm going to call for what it actually is. It's a dragon, people. Besides following the adventures of Hadrian and Royce, we also get a chance to follow Arista, the Princess of Melangar. From Arista's POV, we learn about some of the political maneuverings that are occurring in the world. The main one being the conflict between the nationalists and the imperialists. So, the nationalists want to establish a rule governed by the people, while the imperialists want to do away with the whole separate kingdoms business and revive the Riyria Empire from 1,000 years ago. All plot lines lead the characters to the dragon and Dahlgren, and the book concludes with the threat being resolved. Rise of Empire is officially the second book in the trilogy. Where Theft of Swords felt very much like a standalone book, Rise of Empire relies heavily on the events of Theft of Swords. We pick up things a few months after the event of Theft of Swords. We learn that the Riyria Empire is being revived, and not everyone is happy with that. Melangar doesn't bend the knee, nor does those that back the nationalists. So, it looks like it's time for some good old-fashioned diplomacy. Arista, Hadrian, and Royce go on a diplomatic mission to reach the leader of the Nationalist Party, Deegan Gaunt, with the hopes of combining their military strengths to fight back against the new empire. Book 1 of The Rise of Empire concludes with a major battle in the city of Ratibor that Arista, Hadrian, and Royce become involved in as part of their mission to reach Deegan Gaunt and the Nationalists. Book 2 of Rise of Empire takes place immediately after the Battle of Ratibor. Arista learns that Deegan Gaunt was captured by the Imperialists and decides to try and save him. Hadrian and Royce, on the other hand, spend most of their time on a ship trying to discover the Imperialist plans for the nation of Delgos. Rise of Empire actually ends on a surprising note as is marked by failures. Heir of Novron picks up right after the events of Rise of Empire. Now, the title of the book is a very specific reference to a plotline that extends across the entire trilogy, and that is the identity of the heir. You see, after the last emperor's death, his son escaped into hiding, and remember, this was 1,000 years ago. So, with mortality being, a thing, his son eventually died, but not before having a child of his own, and that child had another child, and on and on and on. This went for 1,000 years. The church, which is the backbone of the new empire, desperately needs to find the heir in hiding, since that person is supposed to be the emperor of the new empire. But is there another reason why the church so desperately is searching for the heir of Novron? The last book of the trilogy explores the truth behind the heir of Novron. The other main plotline is a little like The Lord of the Rings, actually, where a fellowship of characters band together to retrieve an item to save the world. Outside of that, I really can't go into anything else about the book without spoiling the whole trilogy. What I will say, though, is that all the plotlines are addressed and resolved by the conclusion. So what's my rating? 4 stars out of 5. The heir that's supposed to be the key to everything, the fellowship that's supposed to get the item to save the world, and an evil empire that's trying to control the world. Yeah, the plotlines really aren't the most unique for the fantasy genre, but what makes it all stand out are the themes that bind it all together. Loyalty, friendship, redemption, prejudice, and actual growth from lived experiences. These themes really shine in the trilogy and get you invested in how all the plotlines wrap up. Category 2, World Building. 4 stars out of 5. Sullivan has really created a rich world. There's an empire with a rich lore, a religion founded on gods and mankind, magic, goblins, elves, dwarves, humans. All of it feels different and unique. We spend most of our time in the trilogy among humans, and you find that the different regions are actually very different from one another based on their desires, and it's reflected in their politics. The dwarves aren't just secretive masons, but they explain to us how they became that way. The elves have all their grace from traditional lore, but in this world, there is a savagery to them that's also explained. Traditional fantasy elements are present in this world, but with a fresh take on it, which makes it feel very unique. Category 3, the characters. Rating first, 4 stars out of 5. So, the main characters throughout the series are as follows. You have Hadrian Blackwater and Royce Melbourne, who I went over briefly already, but in case you skipped this plot section in my review, they are thieves that make up the duo known as Riyria. Then you have Alaric and his sister Arista, the king and princess of Melangar. There's Thrace, a village girl from Dahlgren that employs Hadrian and Royce in Book 1. There's Amelia, a servant girl turned administrator in the new empire. There's Nimbus, a mysterious administrator that becomes a vital member of the newly reformed empire. There's Archibald Ballantyne, the Earl of Chadwick, who has had dealings with Riyria in the past. And finally Solder, a member of the Church of Novron who served a key role in spearheading the revival of the empire. Every character here feels unique with their desires and goals, but 2 characters really stand out. Hadrian and Royce. Their relationship and reactions are the highlight of this trilogy, but more than that, their traits are in line with their decisions. Hadrian's morality is presented to us early on and it makes his decisions understandable. The same with Royce. We see his distrust. We come to understand why it's there and it makes sense to us. And when it's destroyed, his reactions make sense. And that's what makes them such good characters. The decisions they make feel authentic and not forced. But the best thing about the characters here is that they all have actual flaws that they have to actually address in order to grow. No one here is perfect. No one here is a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu. So, with such a glowing review, why not the 5th star? Well, there's one name. Thrace. I liked her in Book 1, and I understood her in Book 2. But what she ultimately becomes in Book 3 felt like too big a jump that didn't actually feel organic to me at all. Of all the characters, she's the one that just doesn't feel authentic. But still, one character doesn't ruin the rest, and they are all still worth reading. Category 4, the magic system. 2 stars out of 5. There's an entire system of magic, or art as the trilogy refers to it as, that includes earthquakes, boiling people's blood in their bodies, invisible walls, protection shields, conjuring food, firestorms. There's a lot. So you might be thinking, well, that all sounds really cool. What's the problem? Well, it's not really explained how the art actually works in the series. It's supposed to allow the users to manipulate the forces of nature, but we're never really shown how. The reader's entire connection to the art is through Arista, as she's the only POV character that can perform it, and just amounts to her closing her eyes, humming, and just feeling things. Yeah, it didn't feel great. Category 5, the writing. 4 stars out of 5. Sullivan doesn't mess around with his prose. There isn't any flowery language here. His prose is direct and to the point, and I'm all here for it. Because honestly, I don't need 2 pages about how pretty a mountain is. Then there's the pace. Boy, it's brisk, baby. Characters need to travel to another region? Cool, in the next chapter they're there. We don't need 5 chapters painfully detailing every step they took to get there. But the best thing about his prose is the interaction between the characters. Hadrian and Royce talk to each other like people that have known each other for a long time and have seen some things together. It feels organic. So again, why not the 5th star? Well, 2 words. The art. The art feels like a get out of jail free card a few times that just moves the plot forward as it's used, in my opinion, ham-fistedly just to solve a problem so the plot can just advance. It just feels cheap. Still, I think it's a minor issue that doesn't dampen the overall writing of the trilogy. Category 6, enjoyment. 4 stars out of 5. Honestly, I wasn't sure I was going to like the trilogy when I first started. I was like, oh, a series about thieves. How original. But so much more. The bromance between Hadrian and Royce is so good that you really never want to leave their POVs. But it's more than that. This is a flawed world with flawed characters that actually grow. It makes you care about the world and the characters in it. Then there's Arista. Finally, the gods have finally decided to bestow upon us readers a female character in a modern fantasy trilogy that doesn't suffer from the I don't need no man-itis. Arista is flawed, and she actually works to address those flaws throughout her journey in the series. But the most shocking thing about her is that she actually makes mistakes and has to learn from it. And against all odds, she also needs help. And from male characters to boot, it's goddamn shocking. The one negative I had, though, is the final act of Book 3. I really can't explain it without major spoilers for the entire trilogy, but I felt like it was just overly complicated with all the rules that were being followed. But worst, it felt extremely rushed. Still, it's only one issue that definitely didn't dampen my enjoyment of the trilogy. So that's my review of the Riyria Revelations trilogy. I hope this helps you decide whether it's a trilogy you want to invest your time into or not. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. And with that, I'll see you all in the next one.